afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin. It is your Wednesday edition. I was going to try to save this show for Thursday so I could go a little bit more in depth, but I wanted to get out of the way just in case, make sure we got this show covered. Most of this was driven by viewer questions, and of course, I think my commentary may have raised a lot of questions, hoping not to be alarming, but at least raising the question of where is all this money? Where did it all go? Let's see. We'll see how it all transpires. But let's go over kind of the thought process that I had. I want to talk about these three things. MicroStrategy, talk about Bitcoin, and of course, talk about potentially deception. I put a question mark on there because, again, at this point, it still is an open-ended question as to what is really honestly, transparently going on behind the scenes. Now, of course, we've talked about this, so most of you know this stance, but I feel like I'm repeating myself here. With Michael Saylor's purchases, really all you have to do is follow on Twitter Michael Saylor, and you'll see it seems like every few days he's putting out some post about how he bought more and more Bitcoin. I'm going to actually bring it up here, see if he added some today. Who knows? He may have added some new stuff. So here's Michael Saylor, his laser eyes, his Bitcoin strategy, bitcoinishope.com. Let's see, what's their latest edition? Scroll down here. In November, MicroStrategy raised $13.5 billion and acquired 149,880 Bitcoin for $90,000 average. Pretty impressive. And kind of blows my mind that he's acquiring that much. And I raised the question of, where is it? Where is it? Not only where did he buy it, but where is this located? And the reason I ask this is, I've shown you guys the charts before that if you make a purchase on the open market, there's no way you could purchase as many Bitcoin as he did. It's just impossible to buy 55,000 Bitcoin and not cause a monumental move in the market. So we all understand that Saylor is certainly no longer going to be buying on open market. He'll be using an over-the-counter market or institutional trading desk. That's a no-brainer. I'm okay with that, and I believe that's what he's doing. However, if we go back to the sheer number of Bitcoin that are available, the math doesn't make sense. And somebody actually mentioned this, maybe Saylor is buying it from crypto mining companies like Riot or Marathon. All right, let's see. Mining. There's actually trackers that show the amount of Bitcoin. Let's see, that Bitcoin's being held. Bitcoin held by miners. All right, just to give a chart, because typically there's a chart of all this stuff, and it's kind of cool. If you look here, Marathon, I'll make this bigger for everybody out there. And this is as of yesterday. Marathon, who's the largest one with regards to holdings, had roughly 33,000 Bitcoin. Second on that list was Riot with 10,000. CleanSpark had 9, and Hut 8 had 9. So really, if you take and add together the top 4, you have just barely enough Bitcoin to cover the full transaction that Michael Saylor says that he made. Not only that, but they bought 14,000 Bitcoin the next few days after that. So essentially, you're talking at almost 70,000 Bitcoin in a period of about a week and a half. So no, the answer to someone's question, which was, did he buy it from the miners? Not a chance. I gotta go away, ads. Not a chance. There's not enough there for that to happen. So where did it come from? If it came from an over-the-counter desk, we can explain what over-the-counter desk. There's a primary and a agent desk, right? Those are the two kind of over-the-counter markets. All an over-the-counter market is a place for whales, large-minded individuals, to transact without impacting the market, without having to go to Coinbase and cause all the volatility. So what would happen would be, let's say, Big Eb's got 50,000 Bitcoin that he wants to sell. So he's out on these over-the-counter markets. Maybe he's approached by someone who's an intermediary. We'll do it from the primary side first. In a primary situation, the way that over-the-counter desk works is you would contact an individual, and let's say that's Coinbase. And Coinbase would say, you want to buy how much? You want to buy 55,000 Bitcoin? Okay, what if we get it for you at X price? The whole lot is going to be at X price. And you say, you know what, okay, I'll take it at that price. In the case of Michael Saylor, let's say he wanted to buy those 55,000 at an average price of 90,000. So Michael Saylor at that point in his mind doesn't care what he gets it at. It doesn't matter what the price of Bitcoin is. He knows he's going to be paying $90,000 either way. It's a binding contract. Now, if I am Coinbase and I'm that primary, I am taking the other side of that trade. I'm selling him 55,000 Bitcoin at $90,000 a piece. Whatever I buy it at as Coinbase, that's my profit or loss, right? So if Coinbase gets it for anything more than $90,000, now they're at a loss. If they can push that price down somehow and buy it for $80,000, then they make a whole lot more money. That's a primary desk. An agent desk is where someone just facilitates the trade. So for example, in this case, Coinbase could say, oh yeah, we know someone, let us hook you up with this individual here. They take a cut, a percentage, a commission on that action. The point I brought up the other day, which I think is at least in my mind, and I think many of you feel the same way, is that if Big Eb is selling 55,000 Bitcoin, he's got those for sale, and someone comes to me and says, hey, I'd like to buy all of those right now at a fail swoop price of 90,000, and that's just, maybe 1% higher than the current market, I'm going to say no. I mean, it's just basic common sense of economics. You know that someone's going to drive up the price if they try to buy 55,000 at market. So you know what? I would say, I'll sell you 10,000 at 90. I'll sell you another 10,000 at 95. I'll sell you the rest of it at 100, right? I'm going to jack that price up. That's the way markets work. So I did some digging, and I cannot find an over-the-counter market that will quote me prices. I cannot find a location where I can look out there and say, hey, I'd like to buy 50,000 Bitcoin right now. What are the prices available? Who's out there willing to sell it to me? So that, number one, is my first area of concern. Is I don't know if I necessarily buy that he bought these on an over-the-counter market. That's what everybody says. That's the fallback. That's the safety mechanism, because people just don't understand what goes on behind that curtain, which is why I had this graphic today. What is that curtain of deception, if you will, that goes on behind the OTC markets? It's an opaque market that you and I are not privy to. We don't have access to it, right? You can't get in there. It's got to be for the big dogs. So when that happens, that exclusive kind of boys club that I'm not a part of and have very little information on, that makes me nervous about the process. So that's concern number one. Second part of it is in these over-the-counter markets, and I did a lot of research on this stuff, typically what happens in an over-the-counter market is when I buy those 50,000 from Big Eb or 55,000 from Big Eb says, great, where do you want me to send those to? And a transaction, those 55,000 Bitcoin would be sent from Eb's wallet to Saylor's wallet. We have seen no evidence of that at all. We have not seen a blockchain transaction that came up on any filtering site that showed 55,000 Bitcoin moving in any capacity. That's a huge second area of concern. If I can't see that this was bought on the OTC market, which should go from address to address, and that didn't happen, then it didn't happen. You didn't buy it on the open market. You did not go to the over-the-counter market and buy it. Otherwise, we would have seen it. Which brings up the third possibility, which is, again, creative accounting. And I would love to have someone from Coinbase come on and try to answer this question for me, but I doubt they would ever come on here knowing the direction I'm going to go. The direction is, like I mentioned yesterday, that Coinbase has customers. And let me see if I can find out here Coinbase's Bitcoin holdings. A lot of times this stuff was, a lot of times you can find this information on Glassnode, but I don't have a Glassnode license. No Glassnode license. Saylor had a long interview on Fox Business today. Oh, I didn't see it. Did not see it. I don't watch Fox or CNBC or any of that type of stuff. So unfortunately, unfortunately, Bitcoin holdings plummeted. Nothing here is new. You could look at stuff like this. I mean, this is newsworthy. And this is that the U.S. government transferred $1.9 billion in Bitcoin to Coinbase Prime. So Prime is their institutional platform, which is probably where Saylor was transacting on. Now, this is a whole nother discussion here, right? This is another discussion because if the U.S. government is moving over that Bitcoin, that means they're probably going to try to sell it. And this could be one of those red flags for those of us who are long Bitcoin, but we'll get to that here in a second. I didn't see anything that showed exactly what Coinbase's holdings are. I'd like to see exactly what the holdings are, but unfortunately, I don't think I have the time here to do this live and dig in here. So, unfortunately, I don't know what Coinbase's wallet is, but I gave the example yesterday of, let's assume that Coinbase has 100,000 Bitcoin on their books from customer holdings. I believe this whole thing was done with creative accounting, which makes me extremely skeptical on the stability of the network of crypto overall, because what you're getting is, again, I mentioned yesterday, fractional reserve banking. If we have 100,000 Bitcoin total at Coinbase. And MicroStrategy goes to Coinbase on the over-the-counter desk and says, I'd like to buy 55,000 Bitcoin. It's easy for Coinbase to just say, let's move those 55,000 over as a ledger entry and not actually buy it, but as a ledger entry. That means that on your books, theoretically, you should have 155,000 Bitcoin, but they don't. They have 100,000 customer actual Bitcoin and a ledger entry for 55,000 that was vaporware. If that continues to happen, it's not necessarily going to crash the system, right? This is a way to prop up the system and continue to move markets higher. But if we do get a correction, if all of a sudden prices of Bitcoin sell off dramatically and causes margin sales or people to do a run on Coinbase, then that causes a systemic failure. Now, I've been thinking over the past couple of weeks about this one, and we look at the 4-year cycle, on how that 4-year cycle really pinpoints November of next year as the crash point. And for the life of me, I'm going, there's no way. If the regulatory environment continues to change and get better for Bitcoin under Trump, under the new administration, you guys know his new appointee as as chairman of the SEC, he's very pro-Bitcoin. So you have all of these prominent people that are pro-crypto and digital assets. I don't see anything politically that is going to take down crypto over the next couple of years. What could do it? What could do it is a Ponzi-type system facilitated by institutions like Coinbase, Kraken, Fidelity, BlackRock, where their Bitcoin holdings are not what they say they are. They are manipulated holdings based off of creative accounting and reallocation of ledger entries, much like your bank does with your savings and checking account. For example, if I take out a $50,000 home equity line of credit, a HELOC, right? Anybody here have a HELOC? If I take out a $50,000 HELOC, I borrow that from the bank. That's borrowed from customer funds, right? And then with a HELOC, you keep it in the bank till you need it. So what happens is the bank loans me $50,000. I deposit that $50,000 at that same bank. The bank now says, we have another $50,000 to work with. So you get that fractional reserve lending piece, and all of a sudden, an initial deposit of, let's say, $100,000 could be leveraged into millions of dollars worth of loans on behalf of the bank. This is what freaks me out. Because a catalyst, a small catalyst like a margin call, or maybe even, and to me this is probably what will happen, is the regulators are going to look at this and say, we don't have established rules on what Coinbase or Kraken or Binance and Gemini can do with customer funds. This is what blew up FTX. FTX blew up because they were mishandling customer funds. They were commingling funds, which you're not allowed to do, but no one was looking. This isn't necessarily commingling funds. This is misusing of those funds and reallocating to different places. How legal is that? I don't know. I am pretty sure that if this does become much more public and this activity becomes more public, where more firms are buying more and more Bitcoin, then this could become a very significant systemic problem. Is it there now? I don't think so. I don't think this is anything to freak out about right now. But could it coincide that in the next 10 months, the next year, this gets bigger and bigger and bigger? MicroStrategy's now bought another 500,000 Bitcoin. It's got 1 million Bitcoin in its coffers, yet we haven't seen any of it move, and that now gets called out by regulators. Where is it? And institutions get called out on this as well. It kind of lines up with November of next year. We could get that nice big drop based off of something like this. So I will stop talking about this. It's something that is in my mind because obviously I have quite a bit invested in crypto and digital assets. However, we need to move on to other topics because it's getting boring to some. Yeah, Big M. I love it, Big M. He says, how about we keep this quiet for now? Sure, I'm all for it. But, deep down, I've got to have an air of nervousness to it because you look at what's been going on with crypto, and I think everybody here is just going, yes, go, baby, go. I mean, that 100% gainer yesterday was just incredible. I got other things moving 30, 40, 50% today. It's definitely crazy times for crypto, and I think we'll get a lull going into early January, and then once the appointments and actual actions happen from Congress, from the Senate, from our elected officials, then I think we'll really see things take off. So it's interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm hoping, my fingers crossed, this is what happens. Starting in September of next year, 2025, regulators start to get suspicious about this. Then they start subpoenaing the records of Coinbase and Fidelity saying, where is this stuff that you say you have? And then all of a sudden we get a systemic failure in October or November, and we get a monumental breakdown in crypto where things fall like 70, 80%. Why do I want that? Because this isn't a fundamental flaw with crypto. This has nothing to do with the technology of blockchain or hash graphs or anything like that. It has to do with the deceptive manipulation that goes on with institutions. Whether we're talking crypto firms or Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, all of that stuff becomes extremely shady when it comes to big money. And they know they can manipulate it right now and get huge interest on it without much penalty. If that does come crashing down next year and we get a huge drawback, great, because I'm already planning on dumping mine between September and November of next year and going to cash. So if Bitcoin falls 70, 80, 90% because of the fear and panic, I'll gladly buy 2 to 3 times as much Bitcoin and finally get to that threshold I want to get to. So very interesting times. I felt like this might have been clickbait doing MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, and deception. I think that there is a massive amount of deception going on right now. And I really do appreciate, Liz and Lisa and Margaret and others who are going out trying to get people to answer this question. Where did they get it? And everybody's response is, oh, they got it on the OTC market. Okay. If they got it on an OTC market, there's a trail. There's no wallet this was sent from. There was no wallet this was received from, right? There are sites that track big transactions. There was nothing like that. No big transactions like that happened. So where did it come from? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto. It's a Rocky and Bullwinkle show going on all over again. So Big Ed, we'll keep quiet. I'll stop talking about this one. But I do appreciate you guys pushing the people that you know and journalists to see. Let's find out what really is going on here. I could be completely wrong. I could be uneducated, misinformed, and just an idiot, which has happened many times before. I don't think that's the case. But if I can get some clarity on it and give me peace of mind, better. But the MicroStrategy, I just don't see how you can keep buying that much over and over and over again and have no impact. All right, let me go back to your questions here because there was quite a few. Michael said he pegged Bitcoin at 13 million each by 2045. Big Eb, of course he has ulterior motives here. Now, if we look at what Saylor is doing, I've mentioned this before, I think it's genius. I just hope it's above board. It's genius what he's doing. Issue bonds paying 6%, take all those billions of dollars you raised, buy Bitcoin, drive the price of Bitcoin up higher, rinse, wash, repeat, do it over and over and over again. I mean, there's not a person in this room, not one person in this room that would say no to this. And here's the proposition. You borrow money that you're on the hook to commit to pay 6% rate of return. You have to pay 6% per year on any amount you get. However, the average annual rate of return for Bitcoin since inception is 130% per year. So if we go off historical norms, not a guarantee, but historical norms, you borrow something that you have to pay 6%, but you're going to earn 130. Let's even be conservative and say 100%, meaning you've got a 94% rate of return on the capital that you borrowed. Nobody in here would ever say no to that. You'd be foolish if you did, right? It almost sounds too good to be true, and I think Saylor's capitalizing on that because the more he buys, the more Bitcoin goes up, the more he can issue, the more bonds, and he'll borrow at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% until the end of time, as long as he continues to get those rates of return for Bitcoin. So brilliant move. And if he continues to do what he's doing, he could almost single-handedly push his price of Bitcoin up to 13 million. But remember, it's not just Saylor, it's the adoption that I think is going to be the big kicker for price going forward. And if he's holding that much of it, man, I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait. Lisa says that sounds like a wheel strategy. It is, but with a much greater probability, right? You're almost single-handedly controlling the whole show. Let's see. If Coinbase let their creative accounting out to the public, they would be the next SMCI. Maybe, Steve. Again, this is speculation. This is an assumption on my part, right? This is not rooted in fact because I can't look behind that curtain. I don't have access to it. I wish that somebody did that could get on the program and say, if I could get, an executive from Coinbase to get on here and say, no, here's what we do with those funds. Here's how that would be amazing. But you know who's not going to come on the program and say that? Anybody from Coinbase. They don't want to talk about their business behind that curtain. That's part of their strategic advantage. And I think, rightfully so. You've got the magic goose that lays the golden egg right now. Any of these institutional transactions, they're making tens of millions of dollars on a purchase. Probably 100 million or so. Merlin, but would that turn into an FTX case again? Not necessarily an FTX. Remember, FTX was using customer funds, commingling them with their own and trading those funds. This isn't necessarily trading. This is creative accounting. Could that blow up in their face? Sure, I think it could. But what would it require? I guess the big question, Oliver, is what would it require for this to blow up? Number one, it would require a regulator to come in, open up the books there and say, show us everything. This smells rotten. That would start the ball game if there was something bad there. The other way we could find out is if there's a run on Bitcoin. So, for example, let's say for whatever reason, Satoshi Nakamoto's wallet is finally opened, it moves, and those 1.1 million Bitcoin are sold at market. Bitcoin's going to drop 50%. If that happens, it will trigger margin calls and force sell liquidations across the board on exchanges all over the world. And all of a sudden, Bitcoin could be at 30, could be at 20, could be at 10, given that sheer amount of just straight liquidation. If that happens, that's the tide going out, and we see if the emperor is wearing clothes, because Coinbase would be on the hook for a lot of redemptions, and they may not have those shares. Again, I'm isolating Coinbase here. This could be the situation at Fidelity, could be the situation at Kraken, Gemini. It's just a suspicion that this is what is going on. But it would take a lot of selling right now for the tide to get that low to make this that relevant. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that makes it clear. Great points. Didn't Binance create a run on Sam Bankman-Fried? Yes. Not necessarily a run on Sam Bankman-Fried. What Binance did is they unloaded FTX tokens, a huge amount at market, basically as a middle finger to Sam Bankman-Fried, because Sam Bankman-Fried reported to the regulators, CZ, the guy who, Sheng Peng of Binance, he reported him and told the SEC, this guy's doing all kinds of illegal stuff, you should go get him. And CZ was like, oh, really? I have a huge chunk of your tokens. I'm dumping them on market. And it caused a run on FTX. That's what started it. So yeah, something similar. How does the SEC prevent this from destroying the trust in crypto? I'll be honest now, this is not about crypto specifically. This is about the financial institutions themselves. What are institutions allowed to do with money, right? If you look at, here's an ironic story, and I apologize. I know we're going off on this topic a lot, but I hope you're finding it enjoyable. Caitlin Long. If you don't know who Caitlin Long is, follow her on social media. She is an amazing person. I had a chance to interview her before. I've reached out to her a couple times, but she has not responded because I'm a nobody. But Caitlin Long has worked for some major financial firms, big firms, and she has a company called Custodia Bank. Now imagine this. Here's a bank that when you deposit your money, 100% of the deposits stay at the bank. There is no fractional reserve lending. So if you deposit $10,000 at Chase Bank, they don't have to keep any of it. They can loan that out over and over and over again. That's a Ponzi scheme in my opinion. Custodia Bank, which is Caitlin Long's running and starting that whole banking thing, says if you deposit 10 grand, it stays at the bank. So, the question I have is, how are they making their money? We can figure that out another time. Bottom line is, your assets are safe and not lent out. Guess who is literally refusing to give Custodia a bank license, a charter? The Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has been saying, nope, you don't get to be a bank. You don't get to access our systems. And it's like, but wait a minute, this is an honest, straightforward, real bank. But you're going to let shady banks in like Wells Fargo who create fake accounts, fake customers to inflate their share price. You're going to bring in banks like Wells Fargo who have been busted for insider trading and manipulation of order flow. You're going to bring in JP Chase, which is run by Jamie Dimon, who has a whole litany of lawsuits against JP Chase. But you're not going to let in an honest bank? The system is flawed, folks. The system is absolutely flawed. You have to play their system of deception, of fractional reserve banking, or you're not allowed in. Now, she has a lot of powerful friends, and I believe under the new administration, she will get an approval for her charter bank license through the Fed. It's crazy to think that an actual real bank that doesn't manipulate your money is not allowed to be a bank. It should shock everybody here, honestly. Let's see. This isn't... But what's the odds that Coin is listed on a stock exchange? So I would have thought they'd have cleaned their books, especially in light of FTX fiasco. They could have clean books. They could have clean books, but Are they misallocating funds? Or not misallocating, but are they reallocating funds on a ledger entry to say, yeah, you have this and you have this and you have this, and they don't actually have it? That I don't know. Again, I just find it improbable that you can make these big of transactions without leaving any footprints whatsoever, even on the OTC market. Eric, thank you very much, my friend. What's my Bitcoin price prediction for 2025? I predict that at the low point, at the low end, 250,000 by next November. I actually did a video for bar chart, which I will include over here real quick, just so you guys can have that one. Bar chart asked me to do a follow-up video to the first one I did for them, which was, what's the future of Bitcoin? And I did one called, the second piece of this was Bitcoin 250,000. Now, let me copy this over for you so you can have that one in chat. So there you go, Eric. Check this one out after the show, of course. Don't do it now. But that one is much more recent. It was done after the election, so it incorporates some of the current political structure changes into my forecast. And in a nutshell, a year and a half ago when I made the first video, I thought 250,000 was my price target. Now, given the political changes, the environmental changes, I think that the low end, like at a minimum, 250. I think you could see much higher, particularly if Donald Trump holds true to his promises, which I'm fingers crossed he does. If he holds true to those promises, guys, we'll all be doing much, much better with the price of Bitcoin. So there you go, Eric. That's my forecast. Want to come to light at the next earnings for MicroStrategy when the alleged Bitcoin can't be found? So, Liz, this is the important part of this whole discussion. In the eyes of the financial statements will say that X amount of Bitcoin is sitting at Coinbase. So if the regulators go to Coinbase and say, hey, MicroStrategy says that they have 100,000 Bitcoin sitting at you, Coinbase is going to do what? Here they are. Yeah, we have that. Totally accounted for. Because they have that much under asset management. So I don't think it'll get caught at all on any of their financial submissions during earnings announcement. They can say whatever they want, and Coinbase can say, yeah, we have that. Sure. Let's see. How can there be no transparency? Isn't that the premise of crypto, Jimmy? Isn't that the point of Bitcoin, is making sure that we have transparency to see all the transactions, yet we can't see any of Michael Saylor's transactions? That's why I'm so puzzled, perplexed, irritated. All those nice words. Saylor fit right in with Sam Bankman-Fried and P. Diddy. Well, look, there's a bunch. So you guys know Mashinsky. Mashinsky's the guy that started Celsius. Apparently, he's going to plead guilty to 2 counts of fraud, which may get him 30 years in prison. Good. Took $70,000 of my money. I hope you go to prison, pal. Hope you go to prison. Beat it. The irony is that the money that I lost on Celsius, Voyager, and BlockFi total was about $70,000. That'd be worth roughly $700,000 today because they closed me out at the dead lows. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Let's see. Great questions. Saylor used the historic Bitcoin growth rate for his past prediction for the next 21 years of 13 million. Yeah, and Big Ed, we know that you can't do that, right? There's no way you're going to get the consistent growth rate over the last 13 years to persist all the way through 2020 for the next 21 years. That's probably illogical. You're going to have some deterioration of that ascent of adoption. But remember, if you look at the grand scheme of things, we are so early. I mean, this is right now it's a talking point. It's not actually a tool that's implemented all over the world, but it's going to get there. I believe it's going to get there. Let's see. What else do I have? You guys have so much great comments. For your information, you look super sharp and clear today. Thank you very much. Yes, I did change it. I changed the settings. I made sure the audio was working before the show today. I had a couple minutes extra. We want to make sure I don't mess up every single day. Let's see. CT4L ETH is at all-time highs. Could you comment about this? Do you think people should shift from Bitcoin to Ethereum? Let me. I'm gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone with that one, CT. I like that. I got a question that came in from Michael. Michael says, I shortened it. It really is, what is alt season? Can you talk about alt season? What is it? When should we look for it? Look, we are in the midst of alt season. It is the full-on summer of alt season right now. What is alt season? Now, let me explain first by talking about what is an altcoin and what is an altcoin. If you look at the whole landscape of cryptocurrencies and digital assets, and I'll bring up the chart here. We'll bring up this. We'll go to TradingView. If you look at this list I have here, okay, Everything on this list, and I'll go down the list. You've got Sandbox, Decentraland or Mono tokens. You've got Cake, Filecoin, Polkadot, Engine, Yuga Labs, Ethereum, Shiba Inu, Cosmos, Kronos, Live. All of these are altcoins. Every single one of them is altcoin. There is only one coin that exists today that is not an altcoin, and that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the coin, right? There is no alt. It is the coin. Everything other than Bitcoin is an altcoin. Now, within those altcoins, we can break that down into meme coins and shit coins and, all these different coins. So an altcoin basically means anything other than Bitcoin. So how do we measure that? Well, it's pretty easy. There's actually a tool you can look at in TradingView. If you want, I can copy it over and post it in the chat for you. Let me make this a daily time frame, and I'll post it for those of you who have TradingView. Essentially, what you're looking for are periods of time where the dominance of Bitcoin gets really high. So when it gets, let's say to 60%, there's a belief that that's going to switch, and all of a sudden, Bitcoin's going to sell off. And that money, when it leaves Bitcoin, flows into all of the other coins, whether that's Ethereum or Solana or Cardano, whatever. So here's the chart. I think this is the one. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who have TradingView, you can click that link, and that will take you out to this chart so you can have it as a reference point. That chart illustrates money flying out of Bitcoin right now. And conveniently enough, if you look right here, what happened on Thursday the 21st? Well, let's go back and look at another chart. If we go back to the 21st, that's the first time we really attacked 100,000. So essentially what it shows you is as we hit 100,000, money poured out of Bitcoin and dumped into altcoins. The dominance of Bitcoin fell from roughly 61.53% down to a low of 54%. Now, it may not seem like that much. That's a 7% swing, right? But all of this equates to hundreds of billions of dollars flying out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. So this is really, you can't see the link? I don't know how I can, it should be there. It shows up in chat, Jim. I think you can go to Google and just type in like Bitcoin dominance chart and the link might be there. I'm not sure why I can't post links. It's my show. I should be able to post whatever links I want. So this, Michael, is alt season. You can clearly see it. And, maybe you put like a moving average on Bitcoin's price chart. And once that's triggered, now you're officially in alt season. Well, we're in it. And obviously, when you look at the rates of return, check this out right here. Let me show you the crypto side of things. Look at these 48% gains, 25% gains, 13%, 14%. These are abnormal swings today. All right, these are really big. Not today, just the last couple days. Tron, which was up over 100% yesterday, now down 23 today. These are big swings. That tells me we're in alt season, and a lot of this has to do with multiple pieces. Number one is just the sheer influx of capital into crypto and digital assets right now, which I'm very happy for those of you who have built some positions in crypto over the last year or two, or ever since we've been doing the show. But now that the flood is in, I think you need to be ready for more of these really aggressive swings up and down. Bitcoin, I'm surprised, didn't have much more of a sell-off. I actually thought Bitcoin would sell off a little bit more than this and have a bigger drop, especially when you look at the... Oops, I deleted it. Oh, darn it. Oh, it won't let me go back. I was going to go back to the dominance chart. You go back to that dominance chart, it was definitely selling off aggressively. I thought that Bitcoin would have sold off more. What that tells me, guys, is makes me even more optimistic about Bitcoin. If you have that much money flowing out of Bitcoin and going into altcoins, yet Bitcoin barely moves, that is an incredibly bullish sign. I thought we were going to break the 100,000 mark by Thanksgiving. I'm really shocked that we didn't on the spot price. I know we did on the futures, but not on spot. We'll see. I do think you're going to see the big breakout happen within the next week or two, and it's going to be big. It's going to be really big, because once we get through that sell wall at 100,000, you're in uncharted territory. And can you imagine the headlines that will be in every newspaper, in every media outlet will be not, oh, Ukraine war, oh, coffee from Brazil, oh, this coming out of Japan. It's going to be Bitcoin 100,000. That will be front page news on every publication, on every media outlet in the world. And that creates so much FOMO that all these new investors are going to pour into this thing, and Bitcoin's going to go from like 100,000 to 115 or 120 in a very short window of time. So can you tell I'm excited? I don't know if it's coming through enough. I'm skeptical because of Saylor, but you know what? He's pumping this thing up and moving it. And Oliver says 100K is a psychological price. 100, absolutely, right? You know, when you're certain about something, what do you always say? You go 100%. You don't go 99.95%. You know, it's always 100%. Round number psychology is absolutely paramount, and it's triple digits. It's big. You know, I hope that I'm watching Coinbase as it happens. It was funny, interesting, in my class this morning, we're actually trading on Coinbase. They have futures available now, which actually gives you some leverage, and you can actually short Bitcoin on there. So we were tinkering around with that today. It was kind of fun, but let me show you this here real quick. We'll go to Coinbase. We will go to, oh, they have bracket orders now on futures. That's great. So here's the new futures platform. You can get 5-to-1 leverage on Coinbase during the day. You can get 3.6 overnight on the futures side of things. I had a really nice trade day. I got 2,000 points on a futures contract for, you can see it right here. I bought this at 8:44 in the morning for $96,095. I sold it 3.5 hours later for $98,865. I mean, $2,800 profit on a futures contract. Pretty impressive day. Anyway, if we go out to I want to go to their Bitcoin and look at their depth chart. So here we go. You guys can see the big wall. We talk about $100,000 psychological wall. Look at that thing. This is the cliffs of Mordor. I mean, this is a gigantic wall of price, and it's right at 100,000. I mean, people are so predictable. Now, what I think is going to happen is, as it starts to eat away at this, I trade futures, Margaret. It's not like finally. I trade futures. I trade them regularly. I don't really trade crypto futures, but yeah. This was an interesting play today. But anyway, you guys can see it very clearly. I'd love to be watching this as it happens and shrink it down so I can watch when it finally does blow through this wall right here. And it's going to go through it quick. I think it's going to just evaporate it. Oliver says, I bet you 100K will be hit at sometime early in the morning while you're sleeping. I hope not, Oliver. I hope not. I will try to record the screen when I see it get closer. I've been watching. I've got an app on my phone, so when I see it get into the 99.5 mark, I will be watching this because it's going to be very exciting. Very exciting. Eric says, Merlin, would meme coins also be considered part of altcoins? Yes, meme coins are considered part of the altcoin. And, you know, in looking at my portfolio, it's interesting because almost half of my portfolio is Bitcoin. I mean, it's become a bigger part because remember, what happened at Celsius and Voyager and BlockFi is if you had altcoins at those exchanges, they liquidated that and then they gave you Bitcoin or Ethereum. Well, that sucks because all my Cardano was in there, all my EOS was in there, all my Avalanche was in there, and these are ones that have had huge moves over the past couple months. So, unfortunately, those were sold at a significant discount, and I now have more Bitcoin because of it. So my portfolio has shifted into a bunch of Bitcoin. In that class this morning, we were talking about meme coins. And look, if you have $1,000 or $2,000 kind of sitting around, you know, why not jump on some meme coin? Because at this point, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have a huge loss on your hands or a huge winner on your hands. And if you have $1,000 worth, your stop loss is zero. Now, most likely it's not going to go to zero, but you're seeing 200, 300, 400% rates of return in the period of a couple of weeks. You know, that's not normal. That is part of the hysteria that's going on right now. So, you know, I have a few thousand sitting in another account. I'm debating jumping on some of these meme coins that I would normally never trade just to have some capital appreciation in a very short window of time. But I'm not going to do it with a big portion of my account. Crazy, you can trade futures on Doge. Yeah, right, Jim? You can trade futures on quite a few different markets. Keep in mind, for those of you who are going to go and jump on Coinbase futures, most of them are incredibly illiquid. Like 1 to 2 contracts traded every couple minutes. That's not a good thing. You know, at this point, it's relatively new. So be very careful out there and don't jump onto the futures without looking at the volume and liquidity. Big factor. Can you go over the futures trade again? Well, just because I had it on here, the derivative side, it's down here at the bottom. Unfortunately, I can't make the screen bigger. This won't hide. Let's hide all that. There we go. Come on. So there's the trade at the bottom, and you can see that was this morning, 8:43 or 8:44. Bought one contract, only one, but you can see the price here was 96,095. So it was pretty much. I actually think I timed it pretty good. I got the bottom on that bad boy, and then you had closed it out at 98,865. So 2,800, just under 2,800 move up in Bitcoin in that window of time with one micro contract. It'd be great if this was a full size contract. Absolutely, that'd have been a gigantic day, but it was just a tiny little thing. It's no big deal. What meme coins do you have in mind, Merlin? I don't really have any in mind per se right now. I think what you'd be looking for is look for something that's sold off, because what I witnessed over the past couple weeks is you get these really big moves up and the giant moves down, and it's just rotating from one to the other, one to the other, one to the other, and I don't know. I almost want to buy Pepe just because I appreciate that they're honest in saying that they're nothing, they're not useful at all, they're a loser product, it doesn't do anything. I like that. Buy some Chill Guy meme coin. Is that the one that you're in, Jim? Chill Guy meme coin. I got an email from Celsius about a second payout. So be careful with that, Janet. You may actually get a payout. If it's asking for your PayPal, that may actually work. So I got a payout, I think it was maybe from Celsius. I got one from Voyager, and I think I actually got one from Celsius. It ended up being like $15,000, which was great. Yeah, I just be careful giving out too much personal information. Peanut, I know. Come on, man. Come on, Jim. Trade Peanut. You're trading a meme coin about a squirrel that was executed. That's great. Love it. You can trade those futures contracts on TradeStation as well. Oh, I didn't know you could trade all those. I thought that the futures contracts were limited to Bitcoin and Ethereum if you're going through the CME. Remember, none of these go through the CME. These are not CME sanctioned products, but it is the CFTC, so it is regulated and controlled that way. I don't know. If I do decide to buy some meme coin, I'll let you know. Like I said, I got a few grand just kind of sitting there. I don't know. Why not? Right now, I might be a little bit late, honestly. Like the moves we've been seeing lately have just been absolutely fantastic. Just crazy to the upside. So, Michael, I hope I answered that question for you. What is alt season? One way that you can look and see what alt season is just, again, by looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart. So, I wanted to add this to my list because it is an important chart to look at, but I don't know the ticker symbol on this one. So let me go here and bring it up. I'll add it to my watch list. And let me see if I can copy that. Let's go to add btc.d to watch list. Let's do that. Add it there. And we'll move this one up. Okay, cool. So the .d is dominance. Great. Now that will be on my watch list. So we can keep that .d. It's going to be your dominance chart. And you can see over time, it definitely has its big ebbs and flows. There was that period of time where Bitcoin just lost total dominance back here in 2021. Of course, everything dropped, but started to rally back up. Now, fluctuations. Here we go. Let's see. Mara, you're pretty heavy on Mara. Hade, do you think that these will get back to 70, 80 bucks if Bitcoin gets to 250K, or do you think that the best days are behind them? So, interesting that you say Mara. So, I think it was Lisa or Liz, you sent me, or maybe Margaret, sent me an email about Mara. And Mara is looking to issue, what was it? $835 million is what they plan to net. So they're going to issue these zero convertible bonds, zero interest payment convertible bonds, just like MicroStrategy did. Now, I think the misconception is that Mara is going to issue these bonds and buy Bitcoin and start doing the same thing Michael Saylor is doing. That is not true. If you look at the release on what they're going to do with that capital, Mara is going to sell these bonds, 48 million, I had to write this one down, 48 million will be used to repurchase old bonds that they want to get out from underneath. Some of it could be used to buy Bitcoin. The other part that could be, the other things they can do with it is they could use it for company purposes, which means payroll, new hires, just business operations. They can use it for acquisitions, expansion, repayment of debt. So they pretty much can use this for whatever they want. So don't think that just because they got this money, or they're going to get this money into the tune of almost $1 billion, that means it's going to flow directly into Bitcoin. Not the case. Now, does that mean that Mara has a competitive advantage? I believe it does give Mara a competitive advantage over, let's say, something like Riot. So here's Riot. Okay, let's go back to their most recent price action. It's been a great run over the past couple months for Riot, although they've dropped and kind of going sideways now. All right, there we go. If you look at, yeah, that was Margaret then. Thank you. If you look at Mara, it looks a bit stronger. It hasn't had the big pullback yet, but now these guys have like $1 billion extra. Could that mean they're going to go buy better systems to mine with? Could they expand their facilities and start mining more? I think they're doing this to get ready for applying for permits and licenses that maybe they couldn't get today for expansion, but under the new Trump administration, they might. So I think that this is actually very good for Mara from a growth perspective. Now, they did say that they could buy some Bitcoin with it, which, of course, they obviously could do that. But remember, they already have a pretty big holding of Bitcoin, right? Here's Marathon. They already have 33,875 Bitcoin as of yesterday on their books. So I don't think necessarily need to buy some more, although not a bad idea. Hoard it and drive price up. Let's keep going. Let's do it. Let's see. What investment bank does Mara and MicroStrategy use? Don't know. That I don't know, Margaret. Maybe they help with the Bitcoin purchase that we can't see. Possibly. I'm just concerned, and I've said it over and over again, that this needs to be transparent. If this kind of money is moving, it's different if it was a cash thing, because the banks have creative accounting they can do with money all the time. This is blockchain. This is an asset moving on the blockchain. So therefore, that movement should be documented. Very, very documented. And we're not seeing it. That's why I'm concerned. Lee says, it's good to be a miner. It's good to be a miner if we get the clarity and the regulatory push from our elected officials. Remember, Trump has said he wants all Bitcoin to be made in America, which is a silly thing to say. However, it is important. I got in a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and he was saying, look, what do you think about China having all the miners, and they could manipulate the markets going forward? That theoretically could be a problem, right? Imagine that we have a strategic reserve in Bitcoin. China doesn't, but America and other countries do, and China is mining all this Bitcoin. They could now maybe get over 51% of the blockchain, cause havoc, cause crashes of the system, and then all of a sudden chaos ensues, and China goes, we didn't have any exposure to that. Thank you, though. It's a nice movie probability kind of plot, but I don't think that happens. But certainly if we have more and more miners in the U.S., that does give us more confidence that we're not going to see those types of attacks, and we have more job creation, and Bitcoin's created in America. So I'm all for it. Let's do it. Keep it in America. Okay, let me go to your economic calendar, and again, the short shows just don't seem to exist anymore. Or did they ever really exist? So for today, let me bring up your earnings calendar for today. Let's do that. Today, a couple retailers, nothing really that dramatic. I mean, you had Five Below, Dollar Tree, and American Eagle Outfitters, it's funny because they beat earnings, but they really cited weaker sales over the last quarter and plummeted in the after hours here, down 12%. Not good. Now tomorrow, for Thursday, Lululemon is probably your big name on there. You have Ulta Beauty, Dollar General. You have Kroger as well, Hewlett Packard. So that's pretty much your day from the earnings front. Economic announcements. Let's go to the full week because we have more jobs data coming out tomorrow. Should be excited about that one. Today we had the JOLTS job openings, which no big deal. Today we had ADP non-farm employment change. JOLTS was yesterday. This one is a little concerning. You can see there was a decline here in jobs on the ADP non-farm employment change. We expected to go from 184 to 152. Came out at 146. Not good. Of course, it looks weird with this chart. Let's get past the COVID pandemic piece. And you can see it's still relatively low. I wouldn't get freaked out about this at all, but there we go. Too many hot topics? Totally. There's a lot, Margaret. A lot to talk about. But for tomorrow, let's go and see what we got there. And by the way, did you see Powell's comments on the market? He says it's performing exceptionally well, our economy. If something's performing exceptionally well, that rate cut comes into question. We talked about that yesterday. Let's see if Powell's impact and the unemployment numbers on Friday impact that. But if he thinks the markets are performing exceptionally well, he should stop lowering rates. If markets are functioning great as is, stop lowering rates. Keep them right where they're at. You don't need to juice the system anymore. The probability of a rate cut in December was 71% yesterday. Today, riddle me this, 77% that we're going to get a rate cut. 25 basis points. Man, this just screams of juicing the system too much and pushing us towards inflation yet again. On Thursday, mañana, we have unemployment claims coming out for the U.S. You have challenger job cuts. You also have natural gas storage. So a couple important pieces here for the United States with regards to macroeconomics. And that's pretty much your show. My Bitcoin futures trade was trading by something you saw on a chart. It sold off, and then it went like, it was really aggressively selling off, and then all of a sudden just started to flatten sideways. And that's, I bought it, basically you would say that would be a zone entry, right? For those of you Trading Academy folks, it was a zone entry. It was basically just spacing sideways, and I said, all right, I'll go at it at that point. That was it. It wasn't catching the falling knife. It had stalled, and it's funny because it started to turn right after that, which is great. Poll it. Let's do the poll tomorrow. You want to do a poll on rate cuts tomorrow, Margaret? Is that what you're saying? I got to wrap up here. I'm going to do an hour show, but you want to do a poll on rate cuts tomorrow? I can do that. What else do I see here? No such thing as short shows on Merlin. It's everything because you guys keep asking me questions, but I love it. I love engaging. It's fantastic. Hopefully this is the last cut for a while. I agree, Steve. I'm really concerned that inflation is going to start surging, and that is not going to be a good thing. I mean, we never got to our 2% target. Market's performing very well. Economy, I mean, on pretty much all fronts. Not good if we start to have inflation again. All right, Margaret, I'll do a poll tomorrow on rates, and we'll see what everybody thinks on Thursday's show. If you guys have something you want me to talk about, let me know. You can email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com, which is on your screen. Michael, thank you for the question on alt season. I hope I answered that one effectively. No buy recommendations, but pretty much alt season is in full effect right now, and my portfolio is absolutely loving it. I hope yours is as well, too. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.